I guess that makes the most sense to do. And Ramon, I don't disagree with you, right? I said off the pod, I said I think Reddick coached his worst. This was the worst I've seen him coach all year. I was very quiet when we hired Reddick because I didn't know how to feel about it, right? I'm like, I kind of, when we hired him, I went through the positives and negatives, right? I know he knows basketball, right? He's a junkie, you could say. He loves the game and he's played, right? He knows LeBron. I think the negatives is if he's a first-year head coach, he's never really coached before since then. This is his first real time. And for the first year, to get us to the 3 seed and get us to where we got, it's hard for me to be like, it's time to overreact and boot him, right? So I think for me right now, it was his first playoffs. It was a horribly coached playoffs. I won't sit here and argue that. It was a horribly coached playoffs. And whether we didn't have a center or not, we should have won one of those games. We should have won maybe 2 of those games. But I definitely think we should have won one of them. And one of those games is the one where we had the starters play the whole second half. That's unacceptable. You can't do that. I don't know what was going through the mindset of JJ Redick, but that is unacceptable as a head coach. Dalton Knecht didn't play any minutes. Jackson Hayes didn't play any minutes. Jared Vanderbilt kept getting 15 minutes a game when I think he should have been out there more when you look at how much we struggle on the defensive side of the ball. But I think for Redick, I think he'll get better in the playoffs now that we're in this situation again. I'm not going to say the center was the be-all, end-all because I think you made a good point. There's multiple points as to why this team did not play well, and I think that was one of them right there, was the center and then Redick's coaching. But I think Redick's coaching will get better as time goes on. And I think the regular season is a good way to show that he's not a bad coach. I think for his first playoffs, he just got a little antsy, a little jittery, a little nervous. And for me, out of all the games I've watched this year, which was a good amount, that was the worst I've seen him coach since, I want to say, the game against Phoenix early in the year. And that was in like November, December.
Let me share a little bit on that, right? I hear you talking about JJ Redick, and his mistakes. You talking about Jackson Hayes not playing, Dalton Knecht not playing. Give Minnesota some credit, man.
No, I agree. I said it in my first little monologue there.
They got men over there, and you talking about Ant, who I'm not a big fan of Ant because of the histrionics, right? But they play ball, man. And you can have a center, you can have a power forward, wherever you want. But if the other team across the line is better than you, you're going to probably lose. Coaching be damned. And in this case, I'm not going to say he was out coached. He was outclassed because he showed. Think about this: Jackson Hayes played 23 minutes a game in the second half of the season. 23 minutes a game. Tell me how many minutes Jackson Hayes played in the whole series. He didn't play 23 in the whole series.
It's ridiculous.
That's arrogance. That's not bad coaching. That's arrogance. I'm going to tell you why. I was listening to Eddie Johnson on XM86, who I love, Jump Shot Eddie, who was a former Pacer for a couple of years in the late 90s. Eddie Johnson said, I know Jackson Hayes, and I know he's willing to speak up and say something to the coach when it may not be the most popular thing to do. And I know that JJ Redick is sensitive. And I believe that something happened in that locker room that he says, I'm going to show you and I'm not going to play you. If that, in fact, is the case, JJ Redick needs to have his ass out of LA on the first train smoking, because it's not about you. It's about the team. That's all we ever hear talk about. It's about the team. It's about us and we. And if you're going to personalize a relationship with a player, I'm not saying he did. I'm saying I'm listening to Jump Shot Eddie, right? And if he did that, that's an absolute failure as a coach, failure as a human being. And yeah, I say get rid of him, because what you did, you put your team in peril because of your personal feelings. Who says he won't do it next year or the year after, or if he doesn't get a guy he wants? They had the opportunity, Isaiah. They had the guy in their building. They failed his physical because of cold feet, buyer's remorse. So I don't agree. Want to hear the excuses from it was all on JJ Redick. No, they failed themselves because they failed themselves because they got buyer's remorse. And you know what buyer's remorse is? You see that shiny new car, it looks great, it smells great. Then you get all your paperwork, you drive it home, you look at your contract. Goodness, I'm going to wind up paying in today's market $60,000 for this, that's buyer's remorse. They had it, they showed it, and they failed. So Lakers don't deserve any more time because they failed. And they're not playing right now. And they lost to a better team. And that's what I'm saying. They lost to a better team. You know, there's
I agree.
I'm not bringing nothing to do, zero to do with Bron. This is about the Lakers, right? They lost to a better team.
I agree. I think the Mark Williams trade I agree. They should have kept Mark Williams, because not only that, you hurt Dalton Connect's confidence, who was really playing well for this team that whole first half of the year, and then you choose to get rid of him. But I think with the Redick Jackson Hayes things, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, Hayes isn't going to be back either way it goes. And the Redick thing could definitely be an issue if it is an issue. But like you said, you're just hearing what you're hearing. For me, I'm not gonna.
But that's a trustable. So, well, hold on. This is
no, I agree. I'm just saying I'm not gonna panic yet.
This isn't some hater. This is a guy who's locked into the NBA.
No, I agree.
This is a 18-year veteran.
Yeah,
who knows the game? Who's a TV guy for the Phoenix Suns in the West, and Eddie, the ex-player that's tied in and locked in, is Eddie Johnson. So we can't skirt past that. You can't skirt past it because you're a fan. It's the fact.
I'm not.
And Jackson Hayes leaves, right? Okay. Jackson, someone else comes in. Who's to say that JJ Redick doesn't do the same thing? So that's what I'm saying. It's about your emotional intelligence. He talks about how intelligent he is. He went to Duke. He showed no emotional intelligence when it came to a situation with a player. You can't tell me, well, he felt Jackson Hayes wasn't going to be a better player on the court. It had to be something internal. It couldn't be physical because he played 23 minutes a game in the regular season. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
That's 6 minutes a quarter. How many quarters in the game? 4. That means half of every quarter Jackson Hayes is playing. So yes, there's something to that. But the point is, I don't know why the hell I'm still talking about the Lakers. I'm done. No more talk about the Lakers. I'm done. You can cancel another topic. I'll sit back and relax. I'm done talking about the Lakers.
I'm taking one more swing because I got a bump, baby. I'm taking one more punch. That coach, JJ. People talk about the regular season. That third seed had nothing to do with him, because prior to the scapegoat out of Dallas getting there, they were like, what, the 11th seed or something like that, a play-in candidate, 10 or somewhere around there. And then here comes this big guy, overweight, out of shape. He's the reason we lost the playoffs, who took them to the third seed. Let's be real. Because at first, before he got there, we was talking about play-in games with the Lakers. But the out-of-shape guy moved the needle. Now, JJ, he coaches like a player, like he's still playing. That move with 5 players playing the whole half was a player making a decision. I'm going with my 5, and we're going to turn this around. That sounds like something I've heard in huddles that I hear with old heads that play. This is my team. I'm riding with my boys. He wasn't acting like a coach. When the bullets start firing, it started getting hot, he fell back in the player mode instead of coach mode. He didn't make adjustments. He didn't become strategic. And if what is rumored about Jackson Hayes is true, then he completely fell back into player mode in all aspects of the game. And to me, that's a problem. And I think the bigger problem is he hasn't worked as a coach on no level. Forget the middle school girls basketball. You ain't never been an assistant nowhere. You ain't never been a head nowhere else. You just jumped into this franchise. And make no mistake, this franchise ain't got time for you to get good. It's the Lakers. You got to be good. You got to come in good. If you want to get good, go coach at Memphis. But this is the Lakers. All right? And the other mistake he made, he ain't played Bronny enough. Oh, man, my bad. No. I'm done.
Well, why did I know that was coming, right? We can't have a podcast without a 5-second Bronny interlude. So, hey.
Dude, if I was JJ, I would have played Bronny more, and I'd have talked to the commissioner, and ask him, could I bring in Shedeur Sanders to play?
Hey, you see Isaiah's face? You see our face? Like, man, stop clowning my guys, man. Y'all
I'm
hurt
not.
me.
No, hold on. Well, I mean, I was coming back. I had to pull something up. So, first of all, the Lakers were not in the play-in before the trade. They were 5th in the West, and with even when we got to the end of the playoffs, it was like a 3-game separation from 3rd all the way down to the play-in. But they still came out with the 3rd seed. I'm not saying the Hay stuff isn't true, but I'm also not going to sit here and put one issue on. I'm not going to make this one issue be like, oh, he has to leave, because there's been how many. We've seen issues happen all the time, and they get figured out.
Who made the decision to sit in?
I'm not saying.
Player.
Belichick's out sat
No,
Malcolm
no,
Butler.
we're talking like no.
Okay, but I'm just saying there's other situations where this stuff has happened, and it was a one-time incident.
We're talking basketball. We're not talking Belichick.
But there's incidents in basketball where that's happened as well.
You know what you just did? You just compared Belichick to this guy who's never done a damn thing.
Okay, but still, the point is, we've had situations where this has happened in the past, and it hasn't affected a coach or an organization.
Stop with the deflection. You can't pivot somewhere else. You brought the Lakers. We did. So we got to stay on the Lakers. And they failed. They failed.
I realize they failed. I'm just saying that I don't think this situation is the reason Redick has to go, though.
But you know what? As a person who's not a Laker fan, I'd probably prefer them to keep him. Because that helps the other teams, because he's an emotional whore is what he is. He's an emotional man. How many, since we're talking about, how many press conferences did he walk out of sassing? He didn't like the question. Being an ex-media member, he didn't like the question. He sashayed his ass out of there. So you tell me. That's what he did. Ex-media member, Duke player, smartest guy in the room. Walked out because it got tough. So what do you think he's going to do with his players when it gets tough? Ask Jackson Hayes. So you want to talk about the Lakers? Let's talk about it. So now what do? You go into the offseason. You don't have any cap flexibility. Every media outlet saying Giannis is coming, Jalen Green is coming, Ja's coming. They ain't coming. Lock the door. It ain't matter. They ain't coming. So now what are you going to do come November? As a Laker fan, as you tell us, what do the Lakers do to put them in a position to be successful? And I'm talking about from a championship perspective.
I mean, you got to get a center. I mean, that's the first thing you got to address is the center position.
You had one.
I understand. I'm not disagreeing with you. I realize we had one. That's not.
You had it. What are you going to do now?
Why are we're giving Mark Williams credit for the back half of the year where they knew they weren't going to go to the playoffs anyways, and now we're like, oh, he was healthy, so he was hurt for the most of his career.
He wasn't hurt. He played.
Okay, congrats. He wasn't hurt for this one time. He's been hurt multiple times leading up to this.
How many games did Mark Williams play last season?
It does. He's been hurt before this.
It does matter. What are you talking about? This is this season you're talking about. You're not talking 3 years ago. You know when I was able to do that 3 years ago?
You were consistent
I was able
for
to do a
1
backflip
year.
3 years ago.
You were consistent for 1 year. That's great. Just because you were consistent for 1 year does not mean you're going to be consistent going forward.
You say consistent. I didn't. I said how many games did Mark Williams play last year?
I don't have it on me. I can look.
I'm gonna look. Keep on talking. I'm gonna look it up.
Well, we've got 2 minutes left for this segment. We'll end this one and we'll go to the end of the next segment with the Mark Williams answer, and then we will go into the other series as well. We'll be back in just a second for the second segment here on the Game Time Pod. I think we finally got to a point where things are starting to heat up.
I love this. I'm all that.
All right, we'll be back in just a second.